before, which is I create all the music on the stage. So that means all the music you're about to hear, I don't even know what it's going to sound like yet, because I'm literally going to start writing it the second my fingers touch the keys. So now I try to do that, but I also try to keep it in a classical style. So that means there are rules. There are things that kind of make it classical or not classical. So the fun thing about this particular show is that you guys are going to get to participate. So you guys are actually going to influence the outcome of the music that we create. So let's get started. So let me give you a simple demonstration of what we can do. So I need 3 volunteers to come up to the stage, please. Another brave soul? Don't worry, it's very painless. It's very easy, it's very painless. Okay, and one more, please. It's very easy and it's very painless and it's fun. Okay. Okay.
Can you manage 4?
So I would like, so I think you were first, so I want you to walk to the piano, pick any key in this area. A black one, great. So he picked F sharp. Okay, you can sit down, and then I'd like you to pick another key in this area, just any key you want. Great, C. Okay, and then you pick another key, somewhere in the zone. It can even be in between those 2 notes, just...
In between?
It could be in between, it could be in between if you want, it could be not in between.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm gonna move her note over to get them all kind of in the same spot. So we have this. So the challenge is I have to, create something, but I have to create something that sounds good. It's one of the rules. I can't just make noise. Here we go. Okay, so does anyone want to know what went through my brain when I was doing that? Okay, so those 3 notes, for any of you who are musicians out there might recognize, that's what we call a diminished chord. And right away I knew that I could not use that as kind of the home or the tonal center of the key. That's usually something we use when we're trying to transition somewhere. So I was going to do kind of a false beginning, something Beethoven did a lot, where we start actually on a non-home key or home chord, and then we slide into our true home, the true kind of tonal center of the key. So I thought to myself, okay, well, I'll do a D7 chord, and then I'll land on this one. And then once I get in that chord, I'm generally thinking about chords, right? Music is all about chords, and when you have the chord, you can kind of explore and I always tell people this is a lot easier than it looks. I'm not going to say it's easy, but let's just say it's a lot easier than it looks, and it is something that any one of you can learn how to do. Okay, let's continue. So this time I'm going to play something. I'm just going to go and follow my own intuition anywhere I feel like, and I think we're going to kind of summon a little bit of Beethoven in this piece here. Okay, so does anybody, I'm going to give you guys a few composers to choose from, and you can pick one that suits your fancy. So here's your options. Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, and Chopin. Chopin, good taste, good taste. Well, Bach is my favorite, so we're definitely going to get to some Bach. So to kind of put those in context, those of you who are classical musical fans know Chopin is just the benchmark of the Romantic period. Bach, as we consider, is the king of the Baroque period. Chopin's music is famous for requiring tremendous finger dexterity. And Bach's music is famous for breaking your brain. So when we're doing Bach, we're basically juggling a chainsaw, a flamethrower, and a chef's knife, and you're trying to do this all at the same time. Chopin is probably a little more like pumping iron. You're doing something that just takes a lot of physical stamina. So let's play something in the style of Chopin. And actually, just so that you guys know that I absolutely didn't memorize this, would anyone like to choose what key this song should be in?
B.
B, okay, B major or B minor?
Minor.
B minor, you got it. Again, would you like to know what's going on in my brain?
Yes.
Okay, so in order to make music meaningful, we need a theme, we need something to hold on to. And there's really a sweet spot which makes a piece work, which is you want about 50% repetition and about 50% variety. That's a really good spot to be. If you have too much variety, you create confusion. If you have too much repetition, you create boredom. And what I was trying to do there was I gave you guys something that you could hold on to so that this piece you've never heard before, you would have some sense of where it's going. And so as the chords changed, I kept throwing in that little motive so that you guys would have some sense of what the point of the song was. The thing that makes music fit in a certain style, one of the biggest things is simply the texture. So in Chopin, that left hand is very characteristic of Chopin. You don't really see that much in Bach. You see it a lot in Chopin. If you want Mozart, it's Mozart. If you want Bach, then you've got counterpoints. Okay? So with Beethoven, you have a lot more of kind of this kind of thing, like a. He really likes to get that drama like that. Okay, so someone had requested Bach a moment ago, and I love Bach. It's amazing that hundreds of years after his death, nobody is questioning the importance of Bach in classical music. If anything, he just seems to become more and more important as time goes by. When he was alive, he was not regarded as a great composer. Not that many people knew that he was a composer, and not many people knew his music. It wasn't until really Mendelssohn in the 1800s who brought Bach to the public awareness, because he performed a piece called the Mass in B minor. And that was kind of when the general populace started to become aware of this guy, Bach. But what makes him so important? Number one, so I tuned the piano before the concert. The way that I tune the piano is based on a system that Bach created. So he gave us the tuning. Before that, people hadn't really agreed on the best way to tune an instrument. There was a lot of competing ways to tune it. None of them were quite perfect. And he gave us something called equal temperament. That's what we use today. Other important facts about him, he mastered something called counterpoint. Counterpoint means you have a lot of melodies that are overlapping. So if I'm playing and I'm doing... So the right hand is kind of melody-ish, but the left hand is really not melody-ish. The left hand is kind of just doing a pattern. That's not counterpoint. Counterpoint means both hands are doing something which is a melody, which is singable, which is memorable, which has a theme. But he wasn't happy with that. He wasn't happy with the left hand and the right hand. So he would do 3, 4, 5, 6 parts going at the same time, 2 hands, and sometimes the feet. So anyway, we're gonna do a style of piece called a prelude. So a prelude is Bach light. Okay, this is a texture which is basically it's a chord that's kind of ornamented, not particularly melodic. But I promise after we do that, I will give you some actual counterpoint, okay? So here we go. Oh, would someone like to pick a key? C major or minor?
Major.
Great, okay. So I promise I did not steal from the famous Prelude in C, although you probably heard things that reminded you of that piece. Possibly the only easy piece that he ever wrote is a piece called the Prelude in C, and then basically that was bait to try to trick you into playing the rest of his book, which is called The Well-Tempered Clavier, a book of 48 of absolutely the most impossible pieces you've ever dreamed of in your life. Anyway, let's continue. So let's get into the really challenging stuff. So if you haven't noticed, I like to try to push myself, and I like to try to put myself in difficult situations, and I do that because I like to grow. I want to try to expand, and I want to try to become better. And the way to be better is to do something which is not easy. So we're going to attempt something which is very not easy, which is that we are going to do a 4-part fugue. And we are going to improvise a 4-part fugue. And so how do we know it's improvised? Because if you hear me do this, it comes out differently every time. So I'm trying to come up with different solutions to the piece. So for those of you who don't know what a fugue is, did anyone ever sing Row, Row, Row Your Boat in elementary school? Okay. And the parts are overlapping, right? That's kind of a primitive version of a fugue. When you have melodies that are overlapping, that is the essence of a fugue. So as the theme, I'm going to use the theme from the last book that J.S. Bach was working on before he died, called The Art of the Fugue. This is something that he devoted his whole life to expanding this form. And the theme goes like this. So one last thing I have to tell you, if you guys are not complete total Bach fanatics, as I am, there's something that you have to know, which is going to make the hairs stand up on your arm. A few days before his death, Bach was working on this piece, and he decided that he wanted to put the letters of his own name into the final fugue of the piece. This was going to be the capstone that was going to summarize all that he had labored for his entire life. And so he used B, A, C, and then he used B flat to represent H. And he died. And when you listen to the recording of that piece, most recordings, it just ends with, you hear the pen on the paper, and it just kind of stops. And that was, so I'm not sure if that was a beautiful way to go or tragic or both, but it really creates a wonderful mystery for us. So here we go, theme from The Art of the Fugue. I attempt that probably almost every day. And so when I can get through it, having it mostly turn out the way that I wanted it to turn out, I consider that a big victory. So thank you. All right, so how much time do we have, and how much more music would you guys like to hear? So let's
30 minutes. So.
Terrific. Okay, so why don't we pick one person from the audience? I'm actually going to pick someone this time because I'm going to pick someone that I recognize. Would you come up to the piano, please? So this is a client of mine, also a wonderful musician and piano player. And so this time I would like you to pick, I want you to name an emotion. And let me give you some idea of what we mean when we say an emotion. I mean, I know you know what emotions are, but as they relate to music. So happy, sad, scary, romantic, magical, evil, mysterious, peaceful, pensive. You can pick emotions that you are feeling. You can pick emotions that you want to feel. You can pick an emotion from your favorite movie, an emotion you did feel in the past, anything you want. You can even maybe name a couple of words to try to flesh it out. Any thoughts?
First one that comes to mind is desperation.
Desperation, okay. Wonderful. I can do that.
Okay.
Okay, have a seat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, how to translate a word, an emotion, into notes and rhythms and sounds. So one of the first things that I think of is how happy or how sad should this be? Or even neutral, right? Some emotions are somewhat neutral. Clearly desperation is very sad, right? It's very sad. But the other thing that I want to consider is how much movement is there. So is it something that's got a lot of movement, very active, or not a lot of movement? So if we had something that was sad with a lot of movement, that might remind us of a battle, okay? But if it's something that's sad with not a lot of movement, that would then represent desperation. Okay, so here we go. So why I got into music and why music is important is kind of simple. Music is a bridge between the analytical and the emotional. Music provides us a way to encode feelings in a way that the other person will feel exactly what you want them to feel. There is no other artistic medium that comes close in terms of having such a direct connection with emotions. If I throw some paint on a canvas, there's no guarantee that you are going to feel the emotions that were intended. If I create a movie and there's no music, there's no guarantee that you are going to feel what was intended. But if I put those notes together and I play it for anyone in any country, and you ask them, what did you feel? Now, they may not choose the same word, desperation, but they're going to choose other words that are clearly reminiscent of that feeling. We know that it's sad. I don't have to tell you that it's sad because it touches something and it's direct. So would anyone else like to pick an emotion? Again, it can be an emotion you feel now, an emotion you would like to feel. It can be an emotion you felt in the past.
Relief.
Relief. Okay. So to me, relief is clearly positive. Relief implies some kind of time, right? Because it sounds like something was tense before and it is not tense anymore. I imagine a kind of a medium level of rhythmic energy, right? So a very low level of rhythmic energy might not feel like relief, because relief is kind of a boost, right? When you solve that problem and it's gone, you kind of feel a little bit of energy, like you want to go out and have an ice cream cone or something. So, and would someone like to pick the key for me? Which one?
E flat.
E flat. Okay, terrific. E flat. Furious, okay.
In F minor.
Furious in F minor, okay, great. Do you have another F word we can put in there? Furious F and, no? Okay. Okay, here we go. So, Fast and the Furious in F minor.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, they're fabulous. There's the other F
Thank
word.
you. Yeah.
Fabulous, fabulous, furioso.
Yes.
It's an interesting thing because very often the composers actually will give the emotion in the instructions. Espressivo, vivace, all these things, tempi, and the emotions, obviously. We are coming to a close.
Yes.
How would you like to close? What do you like to do to bring in
Joy.
joy?
Yes.
Well, do you still want to do that? You want
Sure.
to give us a composition of your own other than this improvisation?
So
or how do you
everything
like to
everything
finish?
is going to come up right off the top of my
Okay.
head.
All right.
So joy. When we really want joy, we're looking for major chords, but there's a particular mode we say called the Lydian mode. It's very, very good at creating that feeling. So
Do you want to explain what that is?
So we have scales, and then we have variations of scales that they're really kind of derived from the same stuff, kind of like a dish. But this particular combination, you all know that sound, but there's another sound you hear in movies a lot, which is a little more like that. And that note, that kind of slight discord, just creates this sense of magic. So when you're hearing, John Williams, E.T., those kinds of things, and you're getting those uplifting feelings, it's usually that scale or mode that he's using.
That's a great explanation.
Let's see. I don't know that there's a song that's going to particularly bring it out, but I would suppose that there's certain, when we're
Keep talking.
when we're doing octaves and sounds like that, those really rely on the purity of the instrument. So I think I could combine his request of joy and a little bit of that, and I think we could come up with something.
Great idea. So I think that this is essentially the close of our program. It might be your encore.
Yes.
So we are delighted and we thank you very much,
Thank
David,
you.
for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
that joyful but lovely. That was really beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, David. Thank you, David Mann,
Thank
so
you.
very much. Thank you. Go ahead.
So this, what you experienced today, this is actually kind of a small subset of what I do. And if you're interested in learning more about some of the other things that I create, davidmannmusic.net is a website you can go to where I keep you updated on different projects that we're working on. Like I said, this is really just one piece of the pie. There's a lot of other exciting things that we have going on. So davidmannmusic.net, and it was really wonderful meeting you guys and playing for you, and I thank you so much. So have an amazing day.